Smash! Hey, today we're doing another Quar episode, except this time it's not a tractor video nor a faction focus. In today's video, I'm kinda doing an aimless creativity episode. I got my mitts on the new command squad boxes for both Coftyr and the Crusade, and I decided to kitbash some custom figures for the Gwents, some Tulmaries, and I'm going to show you how to make custom banners for your battle standards. And don't you worry none, I'm going to throw in some cool little lore tidbits as I go on while making the figures. But before we get into all the good stuff, I do want to ask humbly, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and especially share with a friend. The best way you can make these videos pop off is making sure other people know about Quar. And if you really dig the video, please consider becoming a channel member. Your generous donations mean the world to me, and they make it so I can do this as a job. Huge thank you to my channel members, you guys are amazing. Also, if you're interested in anything Wargames Atlantic related, especially the Command Squad boxes, you can use my affiliate link down below, and you can use my discount code MISHMASH5% to save 5% on your purchase. But enough of the promotional stuff. Let's get tucked in, have a moth cake, and let's kitbash some Quars. Now, I guess Mr. Quar technically did this already, but first and foremost, I'm going to do a little unboxing of both the command sprues. Now, the command boxes feature 12 different Quars that you can build with the box alone, but you get a ton of extra bits to make some very interesting figures. A lot of these bits you'll probably be familiar with if you have a 3D printer. A lot of the arms are available in STL form if you want to get them at Josh Qualtieri's store on myminifactory.com, but if you don't have a 3D printer, this is the perfect box set for you. You get little extra arms such as the musician arms, the teapots, teacups, and you get extra little poses to really spice up your regular riflers. As far as the bodies go, you get 8 regular riflers as well as 4 as Keratins or NCOs. As far as the regular skirmish game's rules go, you can only run 1 as Keratin. So now you get 3 extra bodies to kitbash and make some cool extra figures. You also notice you get some battle standard poles, and you can also make some squirrel handlers. In this set, you get actual little squirrels. Now you can also choose to base these on the squirrel handlers themselves, or if you want to, you can make tokens by basing the squirrels using pennies. Now, as far as the Coftyr box goes, it's essentially the same thing as the Crusade, but there are different little bits in this one. For the musician, you actually get a big honkin' drum, and for the actual Keratins, this time they are sculpted with the battle straps on the back. So you can give them backpacks if you wish to kitbash them. Now, another little element I really like about the Wargames Atlantic bases is they come on a sprue, so if you're interested in batch painting your figures, this is kinda perfect. Just glue them on the bases and keep them on the sprue, and you can just spray them down and paint them individually. Though, for me, I like to go a little bit more in detail, so I won't be doing this. Also do want to correct something I said in the very first Quar video that is completely incorrect. I said that you can't really use Tamiya cement on these guys. Now, it doesn't work nearly as well as it does with Citadel plastic, but it still works just fine, and it's kind of my preferred method of gluing these figures together anyway. So, again, just want to correct that. Now, before I really kitbashed anything, I did want to play around with the bits a little bit, and some of the fun parts you can make is obviously the Keratins. But another big thing that I really like about these kits is they come with bare Quar heads, so you can make some interesting civilian models too. Now, while this guy has the fatigues of a Crusader, you could very well say he just looks like a regular guy with a loot. And if you're at all familiar with my content, you'll know full well my favorite part of Quar is just the regular average Quar of Allwood. The common folk are the key ingredient to making the setting work. You love these guys, they're adorable. You don't want them to die, but overall they just can't help themselves. Now, another thing that I love about the overall design of the figures is everything pretty much fits seamlessly. But one thing I do want to mention before I get into the actual kit bashing, for one of the Crusader musicians, this being the one with the phonograph, I do find that the actual gluing point for the speaker to be a little bit fiddly. So I decided to drill a hole both into the speaker and the base of the actual model. The reason for this is so I can fit in a little piece of paper clip. Which is weird for me to do, I know, usually I just don't care about these kinds of things, but I wanted to use my Dremel. And overall, it's a good idea because I could see this breaking off pretty easily if you don't use super glue. It would have been a little difficult to fit this as a push-fit piece, so this is the best next step. And I gotta say once more, I love this design. Though I will say another nice thing is you get 2 of these, so I definitely have an idea for the second one in a later video. But another cool little bit I want to bring attention to is this repurposed Glomer backpack. The pack for the Crusader Chef is just exactly that, and that's pretty cool to see. And another little dumb thing I did was add the wine bottle to one of the Coftyr casualties. They're having fun together. But now that I've given you a little rundown on the sprues and the figures you can build with the kit, let's do the kit bashing. First thing I'm going to build is a Gwentish Standard Bearer. Now, to make this guy stand out from the other Standard Bearer that I'm going to be using for my Coftyrans, I decided it would be a good idea to completely remove the arm holding the pole. As you can see, I'm removing this with my clippers, and for the bigger portions of the hand, I'm also using the clippers. But as we lose that leverage, we'll be using our X-Acto knife to slowly shave it down. It's a bit of a tedious process, and I would take turns using my mold line remover over my X-Acto knife, as I felt it would give a softer overall shave to the pole itself. I would do a similar process with my Tolmarise Standard Bearer, though I do find that one to be a little less interesting in terms of kit bashing. But thankfully, when it comes to slicing down hands and arms for Quar miniatures, it's really seamless if you just have a good X-Acto knife on you. Speaking of which, for his new arm, we'll be using 2 from the standard Coftyr and Rifler's kit. The hand being a cupped hand, which is perfect for holding the pole of the standard, and the arm being a pointed arm. When we Frankenstein these 2 pieces together, they form a relaxed but at attention pose for the arm. And with a little super glue, it's in the perfect place, and we'll add a little bit more super glue to the hand as well as the base. I'll be a little bit more generous with the application of the glue on the base, as it'll allow the pole to stay in place a lot easier. Plus, I'll be basing around this using my typical sand. And once that pose is complete, I would add on my Gwentish head, as well as a relaxed rifle and the backpack. And now we have a perfect battle standard for the Gwents. It's super simple, but it's effective. But now for their Tolmarise counterparts, I decided to make a Tolmarise's Keratin, as I don't think we've ever seen one of these guys. Now, considering I used the leather cap for the Standard Bearer, I decided to give my Tolmarise's Keratin the classic shell helm. Though I do prefer the leather caps, and I think pretty much everybody else does too, I think the shell helm does fit quite a bit, considering that the regular Crusader's Keratins have the flat helm. Now for his arm, I'm going to be utilizing some Western Iron Yarn bits, as the sleeves are pretty similar. Now, I do need to use super glue for these, as so far we don't have any plastic iron yarns, but I will be using a little bit of sprue goo to fill in the gaps. Also, keep in mind, this probably does fit better, but this arm actually does have a little bit of damage. I think I was trying to kit bash this piece earlier and I just didn't find a use for it until now. As you can see, however, the sprue goo is a perfect fix for this. It does look a little silly at first and it does look a little nasty, but simply wiping away the excess and using a little bit more free Tamiya is a good way to fix it up. Now for his other arm, I'm going to be cutting free a Grifkis shotgun, and I'll be fitting it onto that Tolmarise arm. Already, he looks pretty damn perfect. I was considering simply just giving him a Western Iron Yarn pistol, and maybe snipping the barrel for a snub nose, but in the spirit of utilizing the kit more, the Grifkis is the right call. And for his other arm, I simply just used another Western Iron Yarn arm with a holding squad pose. But now that we've kit bashed a couple of figures, I think it's time I show you how to make some Standard Bearer banners. A key component for this is some heavy-duty tinfoil. I can tell you now, even the heavy-duty is quite thin. It can be a little flimsy, but I'm going to show you 2 ways to really utilize this. The first thing we're going to be doing regardless is cutting thin strips of the actual tinfoil. The key is to cut more than you think you'll need, as you'll want to have extra to wrap around the standard pole. You want to add some glue to the base of the pole and slowly but surely wrap the banner around until you're happy with the length. The shape is up to you, though I do feel my first go around for my Coftyr was a little too big. Now, one big positive of wrapping the banner onto the model first before the painting is you can get some very interesting dynamic poses. Especially with my Tolmarise Quar, I managed to create a very worn and battle-damaged flag. It definitely has the look of a flag that has gone through hell and back. You can also choose to cut out triangular pieces, and that's exactly what I did for my Gwentish one. Though a tertiary method I'll mention now is if you have a squeedle and you don't want to have the flag, you could use this for Gwent pretty easily. However, for the triangular cuts, it's a lot easier to glue it in 2 different pieces, or if you want to, you can just simply slice it later on. However, you're going to have to accommodate for the slack that you have on the banner, so doing it like this is probably the best method. Shaving it down is not that hard. The only part that you gotta be careful about is shaving too much. I should also mention that I did use super glue to adhere the 2 points together, though I will consider using PVA glue rather than super glue at this point because it is a little bit easier to work with the PVA over the super glue. Once it adheres together, it's stuck. PVA gives you a little bit more leeway. And again, like I said, if you want to, you can just add in a square and then shave it down, though personally I think it looks a little bit better to simply just adhere the 2 pieces together. But now I'm going to get into the main example of the downsides when it comes to priming the model after you've attached the banner. Now the base coating is simple, but when it comes to freehanding, this is quite difficult as you don't have a lot of leverage. Additionally, it's tinfoil, it's flimsy. And though I don't entirely mind how I painted the freehand for this, I was not really happy with it. So we're going to be redoing this in my secondary method. Quick note, I guess for both of these methods you could always just use decals, though we don't have any official Quar decals. There's nothing stopping you from applying that, and it would probably work just fine. But overall, I think the best way to apply and make banners is to slice the pieces separately, pin them down to a mat, and begin priming. Pinning them down is crucial. These things are going to go flying if you're not careful. And again, make sure to have way more than you actually think you need. It does make the zenithal prime a little superfluous at times, but I still do it regardless because I just don't know how to not do it. Chalk it up to the old adage of having it and not needing it, rather than needing it and not having it. Personally, I'd rather have it bleed through even a little bit rather than not at all. And especially for yellow on banners like the Crusaders, it's pretty nice to have a zenithal prime. For this flag specifically, I sprayed it first with Faded Ultramarine from Pro-Acryl, and I would mix the Faded Ultramarine with a little bit of white for the center. I'll mention this later during the freehand, but it is important to pick a center for the overall flag, even if it's just a vague center. But now once my light blue base coat is complete, I'm going to show you how to freehand the Defenders of the Crown Royalist Army. This is King Mervin's personal army, and ultimately they're kind of the poster boys of the Coftyrans at this point. They do kind of look like every other Coftyran except they have yellow cuffs. Now for actually freehanding the symbol, I'm going to be sketching this out using a little bit of warped yellow. Personally, I find army painter colors to be very good for freehand as they are very stark in color, so this is kind of my go-to for freehanding the symbol of Coftyr. Now, I will say too, I am painting directly in the middle of this banner, but by the end of this, we're actually going to be slicing quite a bit of this down. It's not only imperative to pick a very specific spot of which will be the center of your banner, you also have to make sure you understand exactly what you're going to be sacrificing in terms of actually getting it to fit on the pole. And another thing I should mention is I don't go super detailed with my freehand. It's a very simplistic symbol, and yes, it does take quite a bit of time, but overall, I'm just kind of painting the Pizza Hut logo right now. The key for me to getting this perfect is to go about this in very specific steps, getting each of the pieces painted fully before going after the next part. Once the yellow is painted, I'm going to be painting the center using a little bit of Dragon Red. Dragon Red is a very stark color, so make sure to have a steady hand when painting this. If you mess it up a little bit, it's going to be a little difficult to clean up. We're going to want to make sure that the red dot is centered, but if we make any mistakes, it's not the end of the world. If need be, you can rough up your banner a little bit to add a little bit of battle damage, though the armor chipping method is not exactly something we can do here. Now for the final portion, the green. Now this part we actually will be going back and forth and cleaning up, as I just simply can't get this right on the first go. The big thing that we want to get down first is making sure that these first 2 arches are symmetrical. This makes painting the centerpiece a little bit more easy, even though I still do mess it up. It does give you a pretty good center line on where to apply the 3rd arch. And like I said earlier, this is so much easier painting it on a flat surface rather than painting it on a model. Laying it flat on my painting mat, it gives me all the leverage I could possibly need, and I can really get steady with it. Of course, I am going about this a little faster than I normally would, as I did want to get it done for the video, but contrasting with my first attempt, I think this is definitely better. Also, even though I didn't like the first one, I can still utilize that for a base or maybe as a trophy for Crusaders. Also, as you can see, I got a little too close into this shot. Don't mind that. Now, painting the center arch is a little bit more difficult, like I said, and we will need to fix this up a little bit, but it's really not that difficult. The way that we're going to do this is by simply mixing the same mixture we used for the base color of the flag. And if you really want to, you could actually just paint the overall arches in one big triangle and simply paint these in. Though I strongly encourage you to try to do it on your own before cleaning it up. That just gives you some good practice for freehand. Now once the flag is fully painted, I would size it up dryly onto the flag and I would slice it down. We can then apply our glue to the flag and slowly coil it around, and we can push it into any pose that we like. Now of course, the pose is ultimately up to you, but in my opinion the best way to apply it to the pole is to curve it around, as it gives a little bit more of a free flow look, and it can actually cover up any areas that I'm not super happy with. Once it's in a place I'm really happy with though, I would begin highlighting my colors, and if you want to, you can clean up the edges. Once we slice down the banner, it does leave a little bit of the undertone of the metallic, so all you have to really do is paint it with the same color that we used for the base tone. And if you please, you can shade it down. It's good to make it look a little dirty, it looks a little bit more field torn, but I highly suggest you varnish this. And make sure that you have a nice comfy transport if you're going to bring these to your local game store. If you are not delicate with this, it will peel. But it does look pretty damn good, doesn't it? Even though it's not my best freehand, I'm still pretty happy with it, and for a tabletop standard, you can't go wrong with this. And honestly, this is one of those rare occasions where if you don't like it on the model, you can always just pull it off and start anew. Gotta say, this is a really fun video to make. I know I've been doing plenty of 40k content as of late, but it's been good to really get back into Quar stuff. I really love making these videos. These are kind of my favorite videos to make if it's not obvious. And I definitely have more in store for you guys. Also, if you love the Quar stuff, know that I stream every Friday and it's usually Quar related. But with that, I've definitely flapped my beak enough for one video. Like always, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, share with a friend, keep your eyes out for a new tractor video, and remember to mishmash, kitbash, and paint some fantastic miniatures. And you're gonna. I promise. See ya.